Watching Weekend Deal. It's great to have you on our show today as we talk about flooding, its impact on families and lives. You may ask yourself what concerns us here in Nigeria with the Lagdo Dam in Cameroon. Some will say quite a lot because last year on the 13th of September, the release of water started and it's flowing to communities that are along the River Niger and the River Benue councils. It's having a great impact and is contributing to the devastation that flooding has become in Nigeria. And today on the program, we'll be talking about it. According to the World Meteorological Organization, it says that flooding has the most negative impact, one of the negative natural disasters that afflicts many regions in the world. But our concern is Nigeria. We're talking about flooding and its impact on families and by association, their lives. And in our background feature, Francis talks with environmentalist and author Akugbe Iyamu. And he said, like he often says, Nigeria has enough notice. We have time. We know of the flood, and then it comes. And then what happens? Francis, please take it from here.
Flooding in Nigeria in 2023 is not different from 2012 and 2022. Now, instead, in 2023, it's becoming worse. Let me just give you one simple example. The Trademore Estate. Is it not worse this year? Or they are producing? Flooding is a national security because it affects food security, it brings out hunger. It affects health security, causes disease, communicable diseases. It affects water security because the fresh water will be poisoned. It affects health security because it's going to bring this carbon monoxide poisonous and take it to the river. On the whole, it's a national security. Take, for example, the life of the children. When it happened, the children, they become absenteeism because most of the time it destroys the entire education sector. So at that point in time, school is not going on. And if their schools are now used as IDP camps, that means their education is already disrupted. What of all? We have been told that, look, 2 million children, they are going to face acute hunger this year. Last year, the National Disease Control told us that 600 children died out of cholera. You saw the case of Bayelsa last year, when Kogi and when grapes and all were being uprooted from the ground. That is another source of disease. And when it happens like that, what does it do? It brings out all the disease agents and all. And you see yourself, you are going to be inundated with diseases. And most of the time, it depends on the sediments that come. Agriculture is being impeded. You cannot till the land that the flooding has washed out the sand on the surface.
So the issue is not inside the trade money longer.
When flooding comes, it takes almost a year, 12 calendar months to tell you that I'm coming. You have to prepare very well for it. In case, you know the people in the vulnerable area, in case it happens here, this is where we'll move you to. If you move them there, you must have communication because when there is flooding, communication breaks down. The normal communication, telephone and all, it's likely not going to work. Most of the time there's flooding, the whole of their entire livelihood is washed away. Agriculture is decimated, pasture is decimated, livestock is decimated. What arrangement have you made for them to be fed there? Because here you might think it didn't happen next year. You don't know what the other man across is doing to the movement of water. Water must find its own path. If you don't give it a path, it creates its own path. And its own path might be your own environment. Families don't dump refuse anywhere. See, go to Kigali. It's the cleanest city in Africa. A child that is coming from school, if he sees a paper on the ground, he picks it. We should get to that value.
Weekend Deal today is captioned Flooding, Impact on Families and Lives.
As is always, Francis has set the tone for our conversation. We do know that there's talk of the dam from Cameroon affecting communities on the River Niger and the Benue shore areas. We also know of heavy rains. There's much talk of climate change. There's a lot of talk about poor drainage management. So what else is new? But as we go to Jigawa now, we'll get that our producer spoke with the governor and he says they are working assiduously. So how impactful, positively impactful that is, has their hard and assiduous work been on the lives of the people with regard to flooding? We're going to Jigawa now.
This was what the 2022 flooding looks like in Jigawa State. The fear of it is what occupies the minds of many farmers and residents of the areas prone to flooding. This, coupled with the NIMET's weather outlook for 2023, released earlier in the year, predicting possible flooding in several states of the Federation, Jigawa inclusive.
The issue of polluting and environmental issues as they occur is something that normally happens yearly. And like we said, it happens yearly. Government is doing all it can to ensure that decent, proper measures are taken to mitigate this regular occurrence. Now, for example, like the flooding issue, you see the main causes of flooding are normally the gutters are normally peeled off and people doesn't remove the garbage and refuse from the gutters. And once it is during the rainy season, already the gutters are filled up, so the water will definitely overflow. And this has been an issue. And also, the major issue is the river banks. The river banks, and we have this tapa grass. This tapa grass has been the major cause of, because it has come off and therefore it has filled the river bank. So what usually happens when the water comes, it don't flow easily. So the water has to find another way, and that will result into flooding.
No doubt, flood disaster remains a nightmare for residents of many parts of Jigawa State, including the government, which bears the burden of resettlements of displaced and provision of emergency relief for the victims, among other commitments.
The government is doing everything possible to ensure that this issue of flooding is brought to a minimum. It may not be completely over, because the issue is, we also need to understand one thing. This issue is the issue of climate change. It's not something that it's not a man-made issue. It's the issue of climate change. And it's not only in Nigeria, it's not only in Jigawa, it's world over.
Last year's episode of flooding in Jigawa State was considered the worst of all flood incidences that hit the state in the past.
This effect, indeed, it caused serious backward. It caused serious setback in terms of availability of food and its scarcity, and indeed resulted in the poor opportunities in terms of employment, in terms of settlement, in terms of everything. The flood resulted to this effect.
Statistics from the State Emergency Management Agency, SEMA, indicated over 300 lives were lost, including 22 bridges and culverts, as well as many state roads were destroyed by the flood and flood-related problems in the affected areas across the state. To prevent the recurrence of another disaster to that scale, the state government is taking temporary measures to mitigate the impacts of disaster when it eventually occurs. For a permanent solution to the annual disaster, the state government is engaging experts from the Netherlands on flood and water resource management, but the government says that is coming at a cost far beyond its limits. Hence, its appeal to the federal government and international organizations for assistance to tackle the problems once and for all.
It's Weekendale. It's great to have you be a part of our package, as you often are. And your messages are already coming in. We'll begin to share them in just a moment. But we're going to Kogi State. You know, there's been issues of flood. We had some devastating gist from there last year and perhaps the year before that. And as we go to Kogi State, someone says, are the victims forgotten? What's happening there? Please share.
Over the years, Nigeria has witnessed the ravaging effect of floods, which have caused large fatalities, devastating economic losses, and incredible environmental damages. In Kogi State, particularly Lokoja and its environs, flooding is a recurrent phenomenon. In 2012 and 2022, several communities in Lokoja, Ibaji, and Kogi local government areas were devastated. In total, 344 communities were affected, with farmlands, infrastructures, houses, and other properties destroyed.
The places that experienced flooding in 2022 is different from 2012. And some of these places have not been exposed to flooding before. Though the flooding wasn't as good and speedy like that of 2012, but again, the way it came, it finds another new route and affected a lot of people in the state, to the extent we had our road cut off from Lokoja to Abuja.
The recurring phenomenon, which is largely as a result of climate change, the presence of the giant rivers in Nigeria, River Niger and Benue, have also helped in amplifying the impact of flood in Lokoja, especially in Gadumo, Adonkolo, and Ganaja, among other communities.
Going by 2012, you know that the measure in that time is about 12.8. But coming to 2022, that's 10 years after, it was 13.2. So you now know that it keeps rising.
Talatu Ismail is one among the many victims of the 2012 and 2022 flooding. She narrates how the disaster has succeeded in making her homeless and her hopes of rebuilding a life again still hanging in the balance.
The time where water come, before na summer, again when they follow this guy, they don't die for inside here. They come out like this. I said to God, the government to make it help me.
Ana ruwa ba mu da wuri kwanciya. Waye na ne muna sha wuya. A tudu anan shine an zo an raba kaya duka. To so ne an ba su izini ba mu da karfin da je mu yi karfin da su sai Allah.
Unlike Malam Isa Yusuf and Talatu, Malam Suleiman Usman was lucky to secure an alternative accommodation allocated to him in the aftermath of 2012 flood by the state government.
We thank Almighty Allah, our Creator, that the government of Kogi State plan and relocate us from Adakulo and Gadmo and other places.
Similarly, aside from rendering many homeless and washing away farm produce, fishing as a major source of livelihood in Kogi State also suffered some setbacks. Abu Ali, a fisherman, expressed his pain and frustration on the biting hardships on fishermen cursed by the recurring floods.
We receive it as a natural disaster, but it's affecting us one way or the other, financially.
The 2023 flood outlook released by the Nigerian Meteorological Agency listed Kogi State as part of states that may likely experience worse floods than in 2022. To mitigate the anticipated flooding in 2023, there is the urgent need to integrate both structural and non-structural measures, land and water management, and set out coordination among stakeholders for effective flood management and implementation of workable actions at both federal and state levels.
Interesting. The stakeholders, a simple word, but it's very weighty. Who are the stakeholders? Well, we have some of the stakeholders here with us on Weekend Deal today. And it's time to engage Air Vice Marshal Akugbe Yamo, retired. He's the president, Association Environmental Practitioners and Climate Change Experts. Welcome to Weekend Deal.
Thank you very much. Always a pleasure. Thank you, Nigerians.
Good. We saw you in our background feature. And our Director General is still here, of the FCT Emergency Management Agency.
Thank
Dr.
you
Abbas.
once again. Good morning.
Great. So now it's getting very interesting. We just went to Kogi State. Vice Marshal and I, you were already making some comments, but you ran a commentary on that package. They say that the fishermen are devastated, the farmers are devastated, but we had someone say that the flood of 2012 and the flood of 2022, that they are different in appearance, different in impact, and different in location.
Yes, thank you very much. It's only different in memory. It's not different in impact. Now, you know, I was here a couple of months ago. We talked about it. You see, we are now moving from challenges to crisis. And when you move from challenges to crisis, we now have to begin to change our perspective. The perspective now is not whether the floods are here anymore. It's what is the Ministry of Health going to do with the cholera that is going to come? With the downstream states, what are they going to do with it? What are you going to do with the dysentery that is going to come? You should be rolling out program now what you are going to do with us to save Nigerians. The essence of government is governance. You tell us, what is the Ministry of Education going to do that schools that are going to be the schools that are going to be damaged, children that are going to be disrupted from school, some of them are going to drop out and they're going to be absenteeism. What is the Ministry of Water Resources going to do? Because there's already a prediction now that is sea level 2050 prediction, that the sea level, the space that is being occupied by 300 million people now is going to be under the sea level. And by 2100, the space that is being occupied by 200 million people will be permanently under tidal flood. So
our country, Nigeria,
spread across, and we should be very concerned here because we have 850 kilometers of flood line. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? And the Global Hunger Index have told you that, look, you are 103 out of 121 countries that were profiled. And you have a mere 24%. If that compounds with the problem we're already having now, what are we going to do?
Interesting.
What are we going to do? That's what we should be talking about now.
What are we going to do?
What are we going to do? Because the flood is already here with us.
We're seeing it.
We're already
and
seeing
every
it,
year we can see that the impact is worse. Director General, what are we going to do? Education disrupted. Health has a negative impact. People are dying.
I think part of the preparedness is, that is what my senior colleague Aviam was talking about. There must be preparedness ahead of this flood.
Who should prepare?
And by all the stakeholders as enshrined in that flood. All the stakeholders must come together with their response plans. Is part of the preparedness. The Ministry of Health will define what role is going to do in case there is an outbreak of cholera. Of course, there is going to be outbreak of cholera and malaria. It's one of the consequences, and the
dysentery as well.
Dysentery. So, from the response plan of each agency and each SDA, we'll be able to know their own contribution. What are they going to do? The food insecurity also. The Ministry of Agri will also tell us the kind of intervention.
But when do you think that kind of discussion should start?
It has already started. It has started. Like for me in the FCT, I have all documented evidence that by the SDS, what you are going to do in case we have this flood. So Ministry of Health, or we said, we don't call them ministry, like Health and Human Services Secretariat in the FCT, Agri and Rural Development Secretariat in the FCT, they have already told us, and all others, they have already told us this is what they can do, water board. In case we are moving people from their own residence to a camp, how many liters of water will you provide in a day, potable drinking water to these people, and for how many people, and for how many days can you be able to do this? Okay. So if we know there is another gap, we can now come up with a contingency plan to fill the gap.
You know, it's interesting when you talk, you know, it sounds engaging, but the impact is being felt there, and perhaps their opinion that take is there's so much talk. Where is the impact? Where is the action? But we're going to Rivers State now. They too will tell us what's happening over there. And some say it's dire. The consequences are dire. Port Harcourt, let's go.
The widespread recognition of the importance of flood early warning system for disaster risk reduction has been trending across the Niger Delta region due to the devastating effects of flood that has continually caused untold hardship to the people of the region, posing a challenge to those living in the flood-prone areas.
Last year, flood that even with more than last year flood will occur this year. This place, as of last year, October, all these places we have flooded. And people suffer in these houses. Most of their life we are lost. And up to date, there is no government present in my area, especially in the Ngene Kingdom. Going out there, you see how mature cassava that people are harvesting. Look at all this one. We call it a fufu that people are using it, harvest and do it prematurely, which is not supposed to be done that way. Anything August, September, you see everywhere will be flooded. So I call the attention of federal government for them to come to our aid.
When flood come spoil the cassava for bush, waiting will take to stay, no business, no nothing. And when the flood come, no way to even keep head to sleep. No way, you go they carry these small children. They run up and down. They run. Even refugees that are more better than us.
We are hoping that it doesn't exceed or escalate beyond a certain point, but surely we'll be able to manage it.
It would be recalled that in 2022, flood disaster threw a drastic blow at some riverine communities in Rivers State. Considered to be the most catastrophic in recent times, lives and properties were lost and many displaced.
Now, what we can do is to use the traditional approach. Involve the kings, the royal highnesses, the council of chiefs, the CDCs, the councillors, the local government chairman, to be involved. Let the people speak to their people.
Well, the community is doing its little bit. We are carrying out sensitization to tell our people to be prepared that the flood is coming again. Asking them to get all the drains, swamps, creeks within their surroundings cleared, so that when water will come, it will have a free and easy passage.
We should be talking about damming, because last year we heard that Cameroon opened one of their dams and that finished all of us here. If we had our own dam, those dams would have picked up those body of water, at least managed it.
Those local government areas that are flood prone should be able to they should be proactive to say, can we do a river bank? Can we try as much as possible not to allow this overflowing of the river into the community? Where you cannot, can we dredge? These are long-time plans.
Before, you can't stand here because of what? Because of the water. But as they dredge this place now, the water is flowing and the water is not disturbing us again.
So government should make available early maturing species of crops to the farmers, so that before the flood comes, they've already harvested, and so nobody loses anything. We must also advise people not to live along or build residential or whatever along floodplains.
It is imperative that flood disasters in whatever form are predicted through scientific forecast, proper water channelization, and other standard measures should be put in place at all times.
We're talking with the stakeholders. We saw the paramount ruler there, Otovi. He was so disturbed, and we could see that the citizens, indigents, Nigerians like us, so devastated. Many of them are not happy. And when we're in Kogi, someone said that the palliatives don't get to them, that it's not reaching them. So Where are they stopping? What is really happening? But we know that health risks are increased, and that's why we're going to Lagos now. What is happening there? Somebody spoke from there and said that the flood is getting too much.
The season is here again. To some, it is showers of blessings, and to many families living in flood-vulnerable areas, it is a nightmare. The period of the year between June to August and sometimes to September usually witness heavy downpour, which often results to flooding that can increase the risk of disease outbreaks through overflowing of sewage and sanitation facilities, causing contamination of drinking water, leading to waterborne diseases and other health challenges.
Diseases and other things that we have associated with flooding is majorly cholera. We've been very lucky in Lagos. We've not had a major case of cholera outbreak. But if care is not taken, the way things are going, there's likelihood of having cholera.
As climate change makes the world increasingly susceptible to extreme weather conditions, more communities and families are likely to experience flooding. For those who live in and around the floodplains, they live with their hearts in their mouth during this period.
We've been able to identify a lot of communities in our area of jurisdiction. We have stockpiling of many medical-related consumables that we can deploy within 24 hours to where it is needed.
Lagos being a coastal city and also densely populated, the devastation of flooding in the metropolis can only be imagined.
The flooding here is too much for us every year. Even this side, as living here now, from January to December. So from January to December, for all that side, every year. So we have a problem for flood here.
Our children, they're sick. Then typhoid, they catch them. Malaria, they catch them. The water no good for us. Even we wash plate, our plate fall inside, we no fit carry on. We went with the same market near the road. People know they come follow us by market because of the water.
In addition, it's not only the people who live in flood-prone areas that bear the brunt of flooding. Disaster responders, healthcare professionals, and critical service providers can sometimes be overwhelmed.
We usually face cases like cholera, diarrhea and all that. Typhoid also is associated with the rain season. So we've been having those cases, both children and adults.
We've lost 4 lives, and it's unfortunate. People are not abiding with information, or they are not safety conscious. They take everything for granted.
Drownings, injuries, disease outbreaks, loss of livelihoods, dangerous animals attacks, among others, are risks associated with flooding. How can these be prevented?
When rain is falling and you see a little flood, you should, if you are driving, try and look for a place to park. Don't enter, even if you think it's a small flood. No, there's no small flood. Before you know it, once you are inside, before you know it can get to something else, and you find yourself being swept away.
Evacuation of drainages. When they are blocked, after each rainfall, they are supposed to do it immediately, not waiting for any other person. The people around that area are supposed to alert the local government if it exceeds their ability to clear such drainage.
What are the efforts in place to improve healthcare infrastructure for disease outbreak preparedness?
We now have volunteers. Emergencies normally happen at the local level. So they are the first, they are the first points of contact. So they are there when it occurs, and they respond. When they are trained, we go there, we train them, we tell them what to do. And because of the training we have given them, our work is now easier.
Disasters, including flooding, never announce their arrival. It therefore behoves on everyone to be responsible, not to build on floodplains, not to block drainage channels with debris, and very importantly, to adhere to warnings from the weather predictions. To be forewarned is to be forearmed.
Everyone has agreed that the forewarning always comes. So it's the forearming that we wonder about. If we know the flood is going to come, How do we arm ourselves and arm the residents in different states, in different communities? We now know there are flood-prone areas. We've heard about flash flood. Now we hear about spike in diseases, that the paramedics and everyone is on alert. Are we making the requisite impact? Are we moving forward? Are we making inroad? Air Vice Marshal, I'm retired. Tell us, you saw that package from Lagos.
Thank
it
you.
seems to be that all hands are on deck, but are we getting the results expected?
Thank you very much. You know, the problem with Lagos is peculiar. It's a city-state that have the advantage of having a lagoon and an ocean, which is supposed to complement each other. But if you disrupt the workings of these two entities, you're going to have a whole lot of problems. You see, flooding, there are stages that you have to prepare for it. First of all, you have preparation, mitigation, the disaster itself. Then you have response, you have rescue. Nobody is going to say he doesn't know these procedures. Our own situation is worsened because we have a very poor water hygiene and sanitation. We have very poor, and when it compounds with it, and our systems are not very strong to take care of these things. That is why we would have been prepared well on time. But every year we keep talking about the same thing. Annual flood outlook. What are we talking about? Annual flood outlook. Those are so basic. I can go to the internet and get what the flood outlook is. Flood outlook, what are you going to do with it? Now, agencies like NISA should have been very, very active by now. I've always canvassed, take NISA out of a ministry and let it be on its own. On its own, because what the whole world is talking about, you are talking about El Nino and El Nino now, affecting the whole climate. And it is the movement of water now that we are studying now. Okay. That is very, very important. NISA is being subsumed, and it's not talking.
Okay.
He has to come out and do it. And when the flooding happened, everybody cried to the federal government. There are agencies to take care of these things. Yeah. Okay. What are they doing with it? What are they doing with their allocation? What are they doing with it? These are Nigerians. Look, our giant empathy should be very, very strong. It should swing. It should swing our perspectives. We have to have giant empathy.
Okay.
Yes.
We have messages here. Joe from Kaduna says, I really wish government will consider the masses. Dr. Idris.
Well,
he said it does seem as though they are not being considered. But when we went to Lagos, we saw that all hands are on deck. They are working. Yes. You know, they are taking necessary steps. Air Vice Marshal Iyame retired said we're already in a crisis situation. Yes, yes. So are the masses not being considered? He goes on to say that the masses suffer and in some cases they die. A man loses his house. Sometimes members of his family also die in the flood. Sometimes I wonder if anyone really cares. Education is disrupted, health all-time low. What is going to happen with us? He says, well done, I like the conversation. I'm Joe from Kaduna.
Well, I quite agree with him. It's just like what the AVM has said, that all the agencies must do their own work. You see, it's a teamwork. It's not something that will be handled by one person, by one agency. And also, apart from that, the agencies must be funded adequately, those responsible for flooding. We must take flood as a very serious hazard in the country and plan for it ahead of the time. We don't wait until when it comes, we start getting all those. It's not the issue of palliative. It's not. We have to plan. If you go to the other countries where they take flood very seriously, they have already evacuation centers. Do we have evacuation centers anywhere in this
I asked you about that earlier.
Yeah.
When you said people need to move. Yes. Move to where?
You see, in those cities, when there's an early warning, you walk on your own to the evacuation center. And the evacuation centers are equipped with skills equipment. Whatever trade you are into,
so your life is not disrupted.
So you continue with your life. And so those children, kindergarten and whatever, they can be taken to
school or to
from where? Yeah,
a
from
center
that,
where they can learn.
There is a school at the evacuation center. So all this, we need to take it. We don't have to wait until when it happens, then we start running
helter-skelter. We've been doing that for years.
And some agencies does not know that they are very key in handling flooding.
They don't know?
They, absolutely.
Who ought to tell them?
Because from the look of things, they don't get involved. And when they come in is at the end of the whole thing. So
when disaster has already happened.
Already strikes, and that is not impactful at
Air
all.
Vice Marshal Yam retired. Can you respond to what he said? Some agencies don't seem to know maybe how important their responsibility or their role is in managing crisis. This flood issue in Nigeria. Are they coming in late?
Not even late. They don't even come in. They don't come in. I agree absolutely with him because he is speaking from the position of knowledge and strength now. You see, what is there is that as Nigerians, like I said, our empathy should be giant because we are dealing with fellow Nigerians. We are not dealing with people from other places or not. We should have that empathy. And it should swing our perspectives. Wait, palliative. What's palliative going to do? We should survive first before we eat palliative now. I've been at the highest level of flood management and disaster management. They're not even going to tell me. Then in Nigeria, in 2018, the then DG of NEMA had a very, very engaging program. We have to go into research. The whole of flooding zones in Nigeria, I've traversed all of them. Like I said before, I always say, we need a minimum of 4 dams. 4 dams to take the water. And the distribution is going to be like this. One in Fufure, which has been constructed for forever. The other one at Newman, where you have River Gongola and the River Benue intersecting. You need a dam there. You need a dam in Ogbaru. If you go to Ogbaru, I've been to Ogbaru. When there is flooding in Ogbaru, the whole area is disrupted. And you need one in Lokoja. We have to go about that. Mm-hmm.
There's a lot. There's a lot. You know, Dr. Dusari, before she left, talked about the dams.
Yeah.
They need to construct them as soon as possible. Since we're talking about health, we do know that when flooding comes, and as Air Vice Marshal Yam retired has said, we're in crisis mode, it does us good to learn more about health, okay? And how we can improve and impact our health for the good, right? Health Tips is next.
Welcome to Health Tips. On today's episode of Health Tips, I'll be sharing with you the health benefits of groundnut. Groundnut is not just good because it tastes good in any form. The nuts are extremely good for human health due to their rich protein content, healthy fat oil, and other nutrients. It is a leguminous food crop full of nutrition. Not just that, it adds value to human health and lifestyle, whether in a raw state, cooked, roasted, or otherwise. Some of the science-based health benefits of groundnut are an improvement of heart and brain health, body tissue repairs, reducing the risk of cancer, improved skin health, and more. Groundnut is essential for heart and brain health. Mainly, the oil contains fatty acid, which help to increase the high-density lipoprotein in the body known as the good cholesterol. And this is so because the fatty acid is monounsaturated, thereby improving the general health condition of the heart and brain. Again, copper, a dietary mineral, is present in groundnut, which can prevent the body from coronary heart disease, and thiamine, vitamin B1, a vital micronutrient that helps to protect human health from cardiac failure. It has been scientifically proven that a thiamine deficiency in the human body leads to congestive heart failure. Therefore, taking good quantities of groundnut daily supplies this vitamin, which plays a vital role in the normal functioning of the heart. Groundnut also repairs the body tissues. Like other leguminous crops, groundnut is an excellent protein source that helps repair and build body tissues. It contains a good amount of phosphorus that the human body needs to make proteins necessary for maintaining bodily functions, growth, and repairs of specific tissues and cells. Research has also shown that groundnuts contain more grams of protein than any other nut. According to this research, 480 grain servings of peanuts, which is groundnut, is equivalent to 1 ounce, containing 8 grams of protein. This protein in the groundnut has high digestibility, comparable to soy protein, and serves as a good building block for bones, tissues, blood, muscles, and cells. It is important to note that a peanut butter sandwich with 3 glasses of milk provides the body with 22 grams of protein. almost the quantity required for an average person daily. Groundnut is one of the food crops that have antioxidants in the form of polyphenol and resveratrol, which helps to protect the body from diseases such as cancer, heart-related diseases, as it boosts the body's immune system by removing chemicals in the body that can cause or worsen health conditions. Groundnut is a good source of omega-3 fatty acid, vitamin E, fiber, and other essential nutrients. It helps to lower the risk of contracting certain types of cancer. Vitamins in groundnuts gives the skin a new and better look by protecting it from skin conditions such as dryness, wrinkles, and scaling. Other essential nutrients in peanuts such as phytochemicals, vitamins, minerals, and monounsaturated fats help keep the skin porous and glowing by flushing out excess oils and toxins from the skin. The presence of antioxidants in peanuts such as vitamins C and E help reduce some anti-aging effects, including dark spots, wrinkles, and pimples. Generally, on skin health, moderate consumption of groundnuts keeps the skin ever young and smooth due to the presence of anti-aging phytochemicals called resveratrol and vitamin C, which helps to rebuild the collagen. Finally, groundnut oxidates stress protection. Groundnut has a quality content of essential compounds that are antioxidants rich and helps to protect the body from an imbalance between free radicals and antioxidants in the human body, which is prone to adverse effects. These antioxidants help to prevent the occurrence of certain diseases in the body and certainly stop the activities of oxidation of other molecules in the body. With this said, I hope that you will go out there, get some groundnuts, and eat them today. Do not forget to keep watching Health Tips and stay healthy. See you next time.
We do know that the agencies need to do their work and they need to work harmoniously. But what about you as a Nigerian, a responsible patriot at that? Don't dispose of your garbage carelessly, and also don't build your houses irresponsibly, that is undrained, so that we can eradicate all the challenges that we are facing. Tomorrow is another day. We'll be discussing flooding and its impact on families and lives. We ask you to be a part of the program. God bless Nigeria. Bye-bye.